Hello and welcome to War of the Stars, a Star Wars Roundtable podcast. My name is Mark Tolley, joined today, as always, by my guest host, back from his time in Imperial Prison and a little bit of time in the back to tank, Mr. Brian Miller. Brian, how you doing?
Not bad. It's only by the will of the Force that I'm sitting here right now. Just giving you guys a heads up.
Yes. Also joining us today is the other host of War of the Stars, and the person who also is behind the ones and the twos, making sure this gets out to all you wonderful people, Miss Christina. I can never remember your last name.
Tally.
How
y'all doing? And you can't stop the signal.
No. And also joining us today from Breaking the Fourth Wall, it is Mr. Christopher Stoley. I almost called you
Christopher Tolley again.
There you go. He's adopting me. Look, all I know is sitting on the show, I really want a purple-headed stormtrooper. That's all I want for Christmas.
Also joining us today with what looks like to be Star-Lord in front of an Imperial symbol. That's kind of cool.
It does.
Matt Cruz. Matt, how you doing today?
Doing all right. Would you like to buy some death sticks?
Only if they're purple.
Yes. Oh my God. All right then. So,
Brian's
everybody's
broken.
afraid from this episode.
I'm good. I'm good.
Wow. Just started already. We're off the rails.
There you go.
It is. That's all right.
Like a Disney park, theme, like roller coaster.
Hey, Mr. Host, what's our theme for the day?
Yeah.
Pudding pop.
Sorry.
Okay, Bill Cosby.
Well,
I've been listening to Hollywood Babylon, so I have like Ralph Garman in my head right now. Sorry, go ahead.
Nice.
Today's topic, we're going to be talking a little bit about the cultural impact that Star Wars has had on popular culture. Back in the 1970s, I kind of look at Star Wars as, even though the term blockbuster had been around for a few years before that, Star Wars was one of the first summer blockbusters to really come out. They really helped start that type of movie that you waited for the summer to have, to movies like Star Wars, Jaws, later on in the 80s, the Indiana Jones movies. All those movies that came out around that time really, in my mind, started the summer blockbuster phenomenon. And even though I know that now the Star Wars movies seem to come out around Christmas time, originally they were summer movies. They were in that vein of that type of a movie. And also they're one of those, it's one of those things that when you compare the cultural impact of, say, the other major sci-fi franchise of Trek, Star Wars is more all-inclusive. You have more people that are fans of Star Wars than are fans of Star Trek. I'm a fan of both, but I feel more comfortable telling people that I'm a Star Wars fan and having them be, oh, that's cool, I like Star Wars too, than saying I like Trek, and the reaction would more likely be, oh, okay, or just downright, oh, you like Trek? What kind of a nerd are you?
The special kind.
And also, yeah. And also, Star Wars to me is one of those, even if you haven't seen it, you've heard of it. It's one of those things, I think there are certain people and certain characters that everyone knows. Even if you've never seen a basketball game, you know who Michael Jordan is.
Exactly.
Even if you've never seen wrestling, you know who Hulk Hogan is, you know who The Rock is. those are iconic names. Even if you've never seen Star Wars, you know who Darth Vader is. You hear the roar. Oh, Chewbacca! Yes, Chewbacca. Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Everyone knows who these people are. They may not know the stories, but they've heard the name. So I just wanted to get your guys' thoughts on how you feel like Star Wars has really penetrated pop culture.
Not a good enough reason to use the word penetration.
I'll give you a reason. Great, let me get my turn.
Wow.
Go
Okay,
ahead.
sorry. Go ahead, guys.
I thought you were first.
Yeah,
It
go
doesn't
ahead.
matter.
I can. Okay. I mean, everywhere you look, there's different movies coming out. Like, just anything can be influenced directly by Star Wars, and you look at, like Sharknado, the fourth Sharknado movie. We all know they're stupid, but the fourth Sharknado movie was modeled after The Force Awakens. The poster was modeled after it. The title was modeled after it. Everywhere you look, like my favorite TV show on Netflix right now is F is for Family. Has nothing to do with Star Wars, but the cover photo they have is a Star Wars-esque poster. He's holding a beer can up with the light beam coming out of it, like Luke holding the lightsaber. I mean, it's everywhere, and that has a lot to do with the fact that Star Wars is what influenced so many of the people today who are working in the industry. That's what made them who they are. If it wasn't for Star Wars, we wouldn't be where we are today.
And again, I don't want to make this a Star Wars and Star Trek movie, but whereas something like Trek, you would see all kinds of scientists who say especially in the space industry, who say we were influenced by this show, we were influenced by this. With Star Wars, you can look at the movie industry, the directors, the producers who say George Lucas inspired me to make movies. Star Wars inspired me. I saw Star Wars and I wanted to do that. I wanted to put that magic up on the screen. So, I definitely see and you can look at, any blockbuster movie out today that has any type of action or anything like that, you can see the Star Wars influence on it today. It's just, you can't escape it.
I think it's not just the action, but it's also the storytelling. Like we pick on Lucas's
Dialogue.
Dialogue, thank you. That's the word I was looking for. Dialogue, but you can't deny that the man was a master storyteller. Even the prequels had a cohesive story to it that really tied in well with each other, even if it wasn't delivered well because the dialogue was crap. But the long and the short of it is Star Wars not only gave us our first summer blockbusters, and yes, you're right, it influenced James Cameron to quit his job as a truck driver. It influenced Ridley Scott to create Alien. It influenced Roland and Emmerich to come out with Independence Day, the first one, not that garbage sequel. It influenced Peter Jackson, who went on and did the Lord of the Rings trilogy, which is right now still sitting as tied as one of the most award-winning movie franchises in Oscar history. Star Wars has had a lot of influence on that. But let's remember, Star Trek would not exist without Star Wars. Star Wars revitalized a dying genre in science fiction. The highest gross movies before Star Wars was 2001: A Space Odyssey, and I think it made like $20 million. And the not the Lord of the Rings, the Planet of the Apes, the original Charlton Heston movies, that were, I think, made like $37 million total.
Yeah.
Star Wars.
And you also
figure back to 77, 78. Star Wars made over $79 million domestically. It was the true blockbuster, and even though it's fantasy as opposed to science fiction, it revitalized the science fiction community. Yeah. And a major thing is, like you said, Star Trek influenced the tech gurus, the people who went out and created the tablets, the cell phone, the things that were influenced by Star Trek. But Star Wars and George Lucas influenced imagination. It brought imagination back to storytelling.
Yeah, yeah. And vice versa. George has said before that he was influenced by Gene Roddenberry to do this. That Gene was an influence. So I think in that sense they kind of helped influence each other. I think that I don't know if it wasn't for the popularity that Star Trek had in the '60s, if George would have gone through with doing that type of a space opera.
He would have, because he based it on Flash Gordon's Saturday morning serials.
Yeah,
that was his major focus on it. That's why he went more fantasy than pure science fiction.
Yeah.
But what I mean by Star Trek wouldn't exist is remember Paramount rushed to get the Star Trek movie out because of the success of Star Wars. If Star Wars hadn't hit, Star Trek the motion picture never would have existed.
Yeah. Well, that might be a good thing because the first movie wasn't that good.
No, it wasn't.
But Eager.
Yeah, we all know about that.
Hey, you know what? The ship looked phenomenal. That's one thing I could give about
it. Yeah, true.
That's why they did a 30-minute montage of nothing but the ship.
And that's the only time they did that I thought it was fitting in that movie. Is keep looking at the ship. It's pretty. Once it gets out of space, get into the show.
Well, I want to.
Let's before this turns into a Star Trek podcast.
No, I won't let it happen.
No.
So, but definitely. Wow.
I think Christina was ready to shoot out a point. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, the thing is, the thing to remember about Star Trek, Star Wars, because we're rambling about Star Trek, damn you all. But yeah, the thing about Star Wars, the people who watched it, especially in '77, the original release, they were captivated by it. It caused them to do things, to think about things they would never have thought of otherwise. And the most important thing, it allowed people to dream. And that's something that's very important. Think about all our innovations without Star Wars. Would we have what we have because that person was inspired by it. So it's the one thing to think about as well. Even life-saving equipment, for example. Granted, we don't have back-to-tanks in real life. Okay, I know that, but we do have equipment that, if you look at it, it definitely takes its inspiration from Star Wars, and you cannot. And that's the one thing to remember too. So it just allowed people to dream and think about things, and think about doing things in a way they would never have thought of doing it before, and it gave us hope. I hate to be cliche, but it did give us hope. The first movie was there was nothing like it at all when it came out. There was absolutely no movie ever made like Episode 4 before Episode 4 came out. Space Odyssey, yes, but it was still very Earth-based. Planet of the Apes, it was completely different. Man Who Knew the World, The Day the World Stood Still. Classic sci-fi movie, but still. And that was the whole thing. It made people realize, something, this may be possible. I can dream about this. And dreamers become creators, and creators become inventors. Inventors become, standard of life. Yeah.
Well, one way I always able to, see a good, tell a good movie, a great movie from a good movie or even a bad movie is, does the movie stand the test of time? And Episode 4, the original trilogy, all stand the test of time. They're still just as good and just as engaging as when they first came out. In fact, I think it was my mom a few years ago. We were rewatching all 6 of the movies in preparation for Force Awakens, and we got through the prequels, and we got to Episode 4. And like I said, I think it was my mom was watching it, and she said, "I forgot how fun that movie is." And I said that's what it was. Yes, it made you think. Yes, it gave you hope, but it was a fun movie. The original Episode 4 was just a fun fun movie. You can just put it in and just have a blast watching it.
Oh, I agree with you fully. If you think about it, some of the lines in that movie were they're a classic.
Oh, yeah.
I know Matt has something he wants to say, so we're going to let Matt talk.
Thank you. Yeah, I was going to say,
the panel. But go ahead. Sorry.
What I was going to say is, it does span the test of time. I think how many generations now have been raised on those movies, have watched since everyone had their first VCR. Our parents bought those movies just so we could watch them over and over again. I mean, I know we all probably wore out those tapes like no tomorrow. I mean, my kids now know. My son, my two youngest, they're 4 years old. If I pop in anything Star Wars, I almost said it. I actually caught myself talking about Trek all this time. I'll pop in anything and they'll sit there and they'll watch it and they know what I'm talking about. Like one time I started watching Clone Wars without my daughter Harley, and she goes, "What happened to Yoda?" I was like, "Oh, I finished it already." She's like, "You watched it without me?" Like she was heartbroken. I was like, "Whoa!" You
messed up.
Oh yeah, I mean and then it just made me sit back and think about it. I was like, man, this thing can probably go on for many generations because it just captures that imagination at whatever age group just relates to any part of it.
Yeah, that's why. I mean, I'm personally looking forward to, even though she's seen it before, but she was like not even one. I think she might have been one when she saw it. But sitting down with my daughter when she's old enough to really, watch it and understand, and going through and watching the saga with her and seeing her reactions to all of those, I'm going to watch it in the Hatchet version. So I'm going to watch Rogue One, then 4, 5, and 6, and then go back and watch the prequels because I want to see her reaction and her face when it's the big reveal of Vader, just to see what that does and how she reacts to that, and then going so that's one thing I'm looking forward to with my daughter is sitting her down and watching the saga with her.
With my kids, I showed them Star Wars right before Episode 7 came out, and they were 6 and 5 at the time. That's when I finally sat down and I started them with the original trilogy first, and the prequels. Then of course, Episode 7 came out, and they've only recently seen Rogue One. It literally started an obsession. Like my daughter, who was above and beyond nothing but Frozen, all of a sudden is Darth Vader. She's like her dad, and Darth Vader's an obsession. But I think it does capture the imagination even today. But it does kind of pose the question I wanted to bring to the panel, if you don't mind, Mark.
Sure.
It had me think about. One of the reasons Star Wars in '77 Episode 4 had hit so well was because a lot of the science fiction was very dark. It was always a dystopian, post-apocalyptic world. Humanity was forced off of Earth, or and like with Planet of the Apes, the apes took over the world after we basically nuked ourselves, or whatever the case may be. Star Wars was the first light, clearly defined good versus evil movie of that time genre. It makes me wonder, do you think if George Lucas sat down and wrote Episode 4 today and released it today, would it still have the cultural impact that it did 40 years ago? Then I don't mean all the sequels and everything that Disney's doing and everything else since. Talking Episode 4, New Hope. If it released today, this year, would it have the cultural impact that it did back in the 70s?
I'm going to venture ahead and say no. I think a lot of the cultural impact was because of the time. And that's one thing to remember. That movie came out in 1977. So I really feel that was a major part of why it took off the way it did. Because, like I said, at that time, no movies... There was nothing like it. So if it came out like last year or something, and once again, and nothing else was affected by the fact the movie came out now, we've seen it 100 times already at this point. At this point, it'd be recycled Hollywood garbage. You know, because we would already have seen Firefly. Yeah. We would have already seen like every other space movie they have out, and it just would have been something else.
But here's the question: you mentioned shows like Firefly. Would those shows have still come out if it wasn't for Star Wars? Because Star Wars was the one that it influenced all of those movies.
Definitely not. That's even saying that's the biggest drawing from Firefly was Star Wars. So
yeah. So all those shows that those shows that you mentioned that you said that had already come out, all that Hollywood dribble, action stuff. As much as we might, they might be horrible, just popcorn movies, just put it in and mindless explosions. They got their influence from Star Wars. So it's one of those, which came first, the chicken or the egg thing. If you didn't have Star Wars, would you have those to compare it to?
That's why I said if nothing else in the world changed, other than the fact Star Wars didn't release now, everything else came out the same. That's why I made that clarification, because I know very well if Star Wars didn't come out, we wouldn't have a lot of the movies and shows to compare it to.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, I think it would still make money. I think it would still be, if like you said, nothing else had changed and episode 4 came out today, I still think it would make money. I still think it would be a quote unquote blockbuster, but I don't think it would necessarily have the huge impact that it did. It would just be like, oh, it's another space movie. Oh, okay. It would be another.
I don't know. I don't know. Go ahead, Chris.
No, it's fine. Go ahead. I'll save mine for the last since I asked the question. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. No worries. Part of me really, like, I'm sitting here analyzing what would happen if Star Wars came out today, like you guys said, and you think about the story, and it's about a wizard and a farm boy trying to get a princess, and they got a pirate with them, and these 2 droids. I'm almost wondering if that wouldn't be like nowadays, like a straight to DVD release. Like I'm not kidding. Like, it almost feels like in my head that's what it would be if it came out nowadays. Especially since you've got stuff like, Transformers and you've got Alien, and all this other stuff. And Avatar, yeah, exactly. It almost feels like Star Wars would be a straight to home release.
Mm.
Or a Netflix movie.
Netflix movie, yeah. Netflix movie definitely for the budget that we're talking.
Yeah.
But straight to DVD, that's kind of a stretch. I think it would go to the theaters just for the cinematic thrill alone.
Well, you have to also remember now. Are we talking about Star Wars with the budget that George had originally had, or are we're talking
the exact same movie?
The exact same movie.
Okay, so with like 70s special effects.
Very definitely to release the DVD then.
Yeah. If it's that type of, and as groundbreaking as those effects were at the time, and they still hold up
at the time, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, just what happened. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, what I meant because I didn't know if we were talking like it was the exact same movie we got in the 70s come out today, or if it was the same story made with today's special effects or whatever, like revamped or whatever. So if it was the exact same thing we got in the 70s. Do what?
Interpret it how you wish. Make it a movie with today's technology. I don't care.
Yeah.
I think that would actually hit, I think, because there's a lot of people who go see movies just for the special effects. I mean, look, people keep going to see the Transformers movies. There's no story to those whatsoever. And people keep going to see them. It's because of explosions and giant robots beating the shit out of each other.
Yeah,
well,
that's all it is.
And scantily clad women.
Like,
True.
It's Michael Bay.
Yeah.
It's Michael Bay. I mean, it's a Michael Bay movie.
Mm-hmm.
Matt?
I don't think it'd be as good.
See, because it holds so much of our imagination. It holds so much and so dear to our hearts. A world without Star Wars, but Star Wars at a later time frame. That would, I'd say, I hate to admit it, but it would be overlooked. It would be It would be overlooked. It would probably hit like a cult classic. You know what I'm saying? Kind of like some of the ones that we remember more watching at home on a VHS tape and watching with our friends sitting over and coming hanging out than we would if we went to the theater and said, hey, come on, you got to go see this in the theaters. Hey, you got to go see it in theaters. It's better in the theaters. You know what I'm saying? I would see it as more of it wouldn't do well in theaters, and it would get overlooked until one of us, with our weird affinity for going after independent and genre films, we'd pick it up, and it would start to rebuild itself again, but originally it would be overlooked.
So here's a question. In that same vein.
Can I answer first?
Sure, go ahead. Sorry.
Okay, because I'm the counterpoint here. So I think Star Wars would be just as big, if not bigger. Even in the 1970s, special effects and everything else, and I'll explain why. The reason I purposely put it 40 years later is because of look at the garbage we have coming out now. The highest grossing blockbuster movies are snorefests like Avatar, which are just CGI garbage.
Actually, that is opinion because I love Avatar, just saying.
Well, to each their own. And then you've got Fast and the Furious, which is absolutely dribble. And like Brian pointed out and Matt pointed out, popcorn flicks like Transformers, which are CGI fests that have absolutely no story.
Yeah.
Most of your mainstream movies are almost the exact same thing that in the 70s you were dealing with the hard-edged, post-apocalyptic, never walking out of the movie theater feeling good about yourself stories. I think Star Wars...
Dystopian, you're talking about.
Dystopian, yes. Where I think Star Wars in today's society, even with the 70s special effects, which, by the way, still hold up, do very much still hold up to today's standards as they did back then, plus the fact that you find out that they're practical effects as opposed to special effects, which makes it that much more mind-blowing in today's day and age, and then you have that solid story that Lucas gave us. I think Star Wars would finally get what it didn't get in the 70s. I think it would get its Best Picture award. If it released today, I think it would get its Best Picture award. Because it would be something that's not done today.
That's interesting. That's interesting. So, kind of in that same vein, then, I think I already know Chris's answer. Do you think that, as far as the initial release, was that lightning in a bottle as far as right movie at the right time, or do you think that you could have released that movie, say 1980, and it would have had this done the same, or do you think it was just 1977 was just the perfect year for that movie to come out?
I think it was the perfect year for that movie to come out, to be honest. It was when the pretty much the worldwide cinema going audience was needing something different, something new, which is what Star Wars gave them, which just, it blew up the sci-fi genre, let's be honest. So I think at that time and point, I think it was lightning in a bottle, and it was something that had to happen when it did for it to, to get its momentum like it still has today.
Yeah.
Lightning in a bottle, totally. Lightning in a bottle. If it would have come out in the 80s, it may have struck, but it was I think it would have just battery life. Absolutely battery life. It would have the later it would have come out, it would have just killed its momentum. It came out at the right place, right time, lightning in a bottle, kept its charge. That's why we're still getting some decent films right now.
Well, also, for me, I look at Star Wars and, very few films have that sort of shelf life as far as after their initial release remaining in the popular culture, even with nothing else coming out. We had, how many years was it between even the re-release, when they re-released the original trilogy to theaters? That was what?
That was 04, 05?
20 years.
Wasn't it?
97.
97.
It was 97. It was 20 years.
That was the.
That's
We're
right,
not. I'm not talking the prequels. Yeah. So that was 20 years, and it was still. I mean, it was still influential, and people still had it in their, in the collective consciousness, so to speak. And very few movies have that where you can have that long of a drought without, and I'm not talking about the books because, let's be honest, only niche people read the books. Only people who are super hardcore into it read the books.
Brian.
But yeah,
I was going to say this panel.
Yeah. But to still be in that collective consciousness, and for it to come out again, and to still have lines around the block, to see a movie that's 20 years old at the time I can't think of any other movie that could do that.
Well, see, I'm going to counter your question here in a second, but I'll give my response because I'm going to surprise you a little bit. Although I said I think Star Wars would be just as big, if not bigger, of an influence today as it was 40 years ago, I agree. It was lightning in the bottle. You're never going to have another Star Wars in life, ever. Mm-hmm. Episode 4 was something that has struck and will never strike again. One of the reasons I can accept the shortcomings of the prequels and the shortcomings of the new trilogy and stuff of that nature is because of the fact I don't go in there expecting to see Episode 4 again. I don't go in there expecting to see Empire Strikes Back. It'll never happen. It will never happen. Okay? Yeah. However, generations upon generations upon generations, we grew up on Star Wars. We pass it on to our children. Some people pass it on to their grandchildren. It's still just as influential to them who are seeing it 97, 2007, 2017. It's still just as influential as it was back in 77. So I think if you released it at the right time, maybe it can move from 77 to another time. Like I said, with 2017 and the reboots and just the mechanized garbage that comes out in Hollywood today, Star Wars would hit. If you released it during the time of Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings, no, it would get drowned out. If you released it at the time of James Cameron's Titanic, no, it would get drowned out. So it definitely is a lightning in a bottle. But here's a question for you. We all argue for the numerous times, and it kind of plays off yours. We always argue about the fact, and you mentioned the fact of the re-release, the special editions coming out in 1997, and people were lining up around the block. Would Star Wars in 1977 would have been as big and as popular if we got the special editions as the original release? In other words, you never saw the original theatrical release. All you got was the special, what we know as the special editions, but it was in 1977.
I think that would have crushed even more. Just because of the CG that was in it. The actual computer graphics, that was something that had literally never been done before. I mean, the practical effects thing had kind of been done before, but not to the degree Star Wars did. But the CG that wasn't seen until, the mid-'80s? I mean, if you saw a CG Mos Eisley stretched out in 77, and it was all computer generated, and you see the Ronto walking across and the Jawa swinging from it, you'd be like, what?
Yeah.
I think it would have hit harder. I really do.
But would it have been as culturally significant as the original theatrical releases? I.e.,
I think so.
Would it matter just as much if we weren't arguing over who shot first, Han or Greedo?
I think it would have still hit the same. I really do.
Yeah, I think so, because I think as much as the special effects influence people and the practical effects and all that, like you said at the beginning, it was the story. And as really the special editions, they just added a little bit of filler to it. They didn't, in my mind at least, change the overall story behind Star Wars. And that, to me, was the important thing about Star Wars, was the story. The story the story doesn't change. You can add all the special effects and you can make Mos Eisley look like freaking New York City. it doesn't change the story.
Mm-hmm.
The story's the same.
Okay. Well, Christina and Matt still have to answer both our questions, so.
Go ahead, Matt.
Matt looks like he's about to fall asleep.
Oh no, I'm just patiently waiting because I know everyone's got something to say. I mean, no, as far as hitting hard, I mean I mean, because I liked the special editions. I know everyone was like really harsh with it and everything like that, and I liked for me seeing Han Solo talking to Jabba the Hutt and seeing that first glimpse. Yes, I went there. Well, Boba Fett, for the first time, I was like, when I saw the special edition, I was like, yes, they should have kept that in there. But I mean, to me that just would have added to it. So yeah, it still would have hit just as hard in those days. I mean, especially since that, because I mean, yeah, it would have extended the movie to the point where it might have gotten a little stale and boring in the middle. But with the way George Lucas was reimagining it, it was like adding that extra shot of hot sauce to your favorite meal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For me, so it was that was all right. It was that extra little sprinkles on the cake. You know what I mean?
I'm probably one of the people that don't. I'm probably one of the people that don't hate the special editions. I know a lot of people do, but growing up with the original trilogy, with the original format, to me, owning those would just simply be nostalgia. But I'm just as fine sitting down watching the special editions and not having a care at all about Han stepping on Jabba's tail.
I mean,
Yeah.
we're talking about the special editions. The only special edition that really kind of irritates me is Episode 6. That
the Yub Yub song.
Well, there's a couple
Oh,
pieces in there which are really irritating me. But I'm not
The
going to get into
blinking
that.
Ewoks to this day terrify me.
The blinking Ewoks, the Yub Nub song, and the whole trashing and redoing of that too, but the whole trashing and redoing of the dance scene in Jabba's palace. And changing Anakin's Force Ghost. That's why that's the only one that really irritates the crap out of me. The other ones, like when I saw the first, I have both versions of Special Edition. I have the original for Special Edition, and I just got this one actually finally. So. Mm-hmm. I've seen all the special editions, and they did fix a lot of stuff that made it look a lot better in the second special edition. But I watched the first clunky special edition. When Han steps on Jabba's tail, and you can see they just shut the frame straight up, and it was irritating to see it. It's like such bad editing, and I couldn't believe they couldn't do better. It's like, really, you could have worked, you can bring dinosaurs to life, but you can't get Han to not look artificial stepping on a tail. I mean, let's be realistic here. Yeah, you brought these beautiful creatures of Tatooine alive, but yeah, you can't take care of that little scene. I mean, anyway. But yeah, the special I need them. In fact, I would love Disney to release the original trilogy. Just so I could actually have a high def version. I know, but just so I could have a high def version, because I have them on DVD. I have the original trilogy on DVD. I ripped it from VHS, but let me finish.
What I think they should do, this is my own personal opinion, before Episode 9, like maybe the year before, release like in some sort of a way to do it, but all of the movies. So like 1 month you'd have Episode 1, then that'll be out for a couple of months, then Episode 2, then Episode 3. Leading up to finally Episode 9. That's just my own personal thing, to kind of lead people up, re-release all of the movies leading up to Episode 9.
It's kind of funny. You picked on Episode 6. I'm actually more bothered by things in like Episode 1 that I would rather see cut out. And I know Blu-ray did fix one of the problems in Episode 1 than I am with the special editions of Episode 6. Quite honestly, in Episode 6, the only thing I would want to see removed, I could deal with Hayden Christensen being the Force Ghost, although I think that was an insult to Sebastian Shaw, who was the original Anakin. Although I get canon-wise, why? Because that was the last time Anakin was a good guy, so he appears as the Jedi he was. I get that. But,
Okay.
I can live with the Ewoks blinking because, creatures blink. As creepy as it is, creatures blink. I could deal with the singing scene because Lucas wanted to have a singing scene. I get it. He wanted it to be more than what it was. I got that. Take out the goddamn no as he's throwing the Emperor over the rail.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, it was and playing devil's advocate. It was continuity. There's a no in every one of the movies. There had been a no in every one of the movies. It was continuity. He wanted that a no in episode 4 or episode 6. Sorry.
Yeah.
Where was the no in episode 3?
Episode 3 when he got...
No. Yeah, never mind. Yeah, never mind.
Yeah.
Duh.
Really, Brian?
Really? Wow. You're almost going to make you hand over your card, dude.
Yo, are you sure the
really
dog only attacked your router?
Oh, no shit.
I am not entirely... I just
Yeah.
read the first issue of the new Vader too. You think I'd know this? God.
Wait a minute. Brian's my purple-headed stormtrooper I want for Christmas.
God.
Yeah, your colors are off, by the way.
Yeah, you
Are
are
they?
kind of washed out. Yeah.
Yeah, you're a little blue.
You're a little washed out, and your red is really predominant.
Yeah, no kidding.
Oh.
Were you
I know
playing
why.
with? Were you playing with your chroma?
I wasn't playing with anything.
There we
Is that
go.
better?
Much better.
Yeah, there
There's
you
more
go.
things one fixed in episode 1. I mean, again, the Blu-ray releases of the DVDs definitely fixed the Yoda, which was one of my major concerns about episode 1, because the puppet Yoda looked nothing like Yoda. How that passed quality control to be put in the film is beyond me. It looked like a cracked out Kermit the Frog. It did not look like Yoda at all.
It was,
So when
it was jacked up.
So when they CGI'd Yoda into that movie, I was thrilled. But I would rather see them re-release the prequel trilogy into a special edition and maybe cut out scenes like midichlorians.
Why do you speak that word? You know that word is banned.
Look at the look on Brian's face. He looks like me when they said Justin Bieber. Did it freeze or is he still holding the face?
No, I'm that pissed.
Okay. Good.
That's what I would want. Like playing off of what Mark is saying, I would love for them to re-release the whole entire saga, but I would special edition the prequels and I would fix some things while I was at it, like deleting midichlorians, like maybe shortening down a little bit of the love story in episode 2, and maybe paying a little bit more attention to the mystery that Obi-Wan was dealing with.
Get rid of the sand speech. Get rid of the sand speech.
That's what I was getting ready to say. That's exactly what I was getting ready to say. I don't like sand.
Well, it's not just a sand speech. Delete that whole entire scene. That first kiss didn't need to exist
Because it came off really.
Not only did you have the sand scene, Anakin was like the dude sitting outside of a middle school with a van with candy. He was creepy as shit the way he was hitting on Padme.
He came off really rapey. Like
Yeah, definitely.
Really rapey.
He came off totally Bill Cosby.
Yeah.
Oh.
I like the meme of the scene where they're at the dinner and he says the comment about this is like the first time we met and she's just got that smile like aggressively hits panic button.
So yeah, there's
just the way I remember you from my dreams.
And again,
yes, that's it.
There's not much I would fix in episode 3 except for get rid of that goddamn no.
Yes.
There's supposed to be a rhyme in every story, but that no was wrong. I think with Vader and his motions, I think it should be just a primal growl.
Yeah.
Just rage growl.
But then you would throw off the no in every movie again if you do that.
And but at the same time, you already have that. You already have that thread of the line throughout with the I've got a bad feeling about this.
True.
That's in every. So you already have that through line of the one line or the one thing that is the same throughout the movies with the I've got a bad feeling about this.
Yes.
So, yeah. All right. So, I think we're going to cut it a little short today. I got some personal matters I got to take care of tonight. So, any final thoughts, guys, before we wrap it up?
Yeah, Forces of Destiny.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
We have had Forces of Destiny since this weekend, popping out on Disney's YouTube channel. We have 3 episodes out. Let me get everybody's opinion on those. We had 2 with BB-8 and Rey, and the newest one today was Leia and the Wicked the Ewok.
Oh, that's the one I've been looking forward to. I've only seen the first one so far. I did a reaction video for it right before we started recording this, and I still have the other 2 to watch. So, but I don't care.
So
Don't
we'll stay
spoil it
away
crazy.
from
I don't care.
spoilers.
Yeah.
No, go ahead. They're only like 2 minutes long. I don't care.
Yeah. So.
Do these being only 2 minutes and 50 seconds long, do they fall under embargoes and no spoiler?
I don't
they
know. It's something to
publicly
discuss
released
another
them.
day. Yeah. Yeah, they're on
Yeah.
YouTube, so
Maybe,
I
I
think
don't
they
know.
do. I just think they're exempt.
All right, well,
Anybody who's watching War of the Stars likes Star Wars enough to have went and watched Forces of Destiny already.
Yeah.
all right, well, I'll say this for Disney's sake. If we violate any embargo, I do apologize right off the bat. Please send us a notification letting us know that there is an embargo in place for it, but we're going to assume that it is public property as it is on YouTube. Forces of Destiny, guys. Those who've seen any of them, what do you guys think?
I've actually watched all 3 of them, so I can
Same
give
here.
some feedback. So whenever. So let's find out where everyone's at with them first.
I've seen all 3.
Okay.
I like.
Have yet to see. I'd heard of them, but I hadn't been really keeping up, busy with work, so haven't had a chance to watch any of them yet. So I'll definitely have to do that here in the next probably the next couple of days. Make sure that I check those out.
Okay,
All right.
so we have 3
I've
people.
only seen the first one.
We have 3 people who watched all 3, and 1 person's watched the first one. So
I personally, I'll start it off.
Yeah,
I personally like all 3 of them. I do. I hate the fact that they're as short as they do. I do like the animation. I thought the animation was an interesting choice. It kind of reminds me. It's really silly, but it kind of reminds me of like some of the animations you would see on old Sesame Street or maybe like Nickelodeon shows. You know, that style of animation, which I thought was really neat for it. I love the fact that Daisy Ridley, voiced herself, as Rey in the first 2 episodes. And as I stated off air, the first 2 episodes, I thought, although I didn't really care so much about the subject matter of the Nightcrawler creature in Jakku, I thought they tied in very well with the story of episode 7 and what the hell happened to Tito after he tried to steal BB-8 and everything. I thought those were kind of neat. I was a little disappointed in the Leia episode. I'll be honest with you. That one felt Disney to me. That was the first one where it was like, okay, that doesn't feel Star Wars. That feels like an episode of like Pet Shop Girls or something of that nature. Like Leia at the end of it, all she cared about is that she got a dress from the Ewoks. I mean, it just, I didn't like that. That felt regressive to what I thought this series was supposed to be.
I'm going to actually counter his on the third one. But first of all, yeah, I liked all three episodes. I mean, like, I really like the 2 race stories they have out right now and how they really nicely tied into each other with the Nightcrawler or the whatever the heck it's called.
Night Stalker.
Night
The
Stalker.
Night Watcher.
Night Watcher. That's what it is. Night Watcher.
Night
Thank
Watcher.
you.
Night Watcher. Yeah.
Thank you, O Keeper of Canon. So yeah, the Night Watcher. I mean, it was kind of cool how she showed the Night Watcher mercy by giving the Night Watcher that chunk of metal, and then later on, the Night Watcher really paying her back by eating the bike. So it was actually just a really cool thing with the Leia episode. Yeah, it definitely wasn't as good as the other two. However, I'm interested to see what follows it up. But as far as the dress, yeah, she was showing gratitude to the Ewoks because the Ewoks handed her a dress. However, there are questions that arise from it, which I do have quite a few at this point. Because, okay, so she gets to the village of Ewoks where there's never been human visitors before, but they miraculously have this dress that fits Leia perfectly, that is measured the right length and everything for probably the tallest creature in that's ever stepped foot in an Ewok village, next to maybe a stormtrooper. So there's my question about that more so. There's my irk about it, which I hope they kind of go more into detail. But, I mean, she showed gratitude for the dress. That was more what it was. And, hey, look, I got a pretty new dress, as Chris was describing it. It feels like to me she was saying, I appreciate the gift of this dress, but could I get a spear?
Well,
because I remember, even Wicket handed her a spear after, and now she's like, and she held the spear, she's like, perfect. So I think it was her showing gratitude for it, but by her taking the spear, showing that she still is a warrior.
Well, even though I haven't seen it, I think just from what you've said, the dress thing kind of plays into, there's an old trope in movies sometimes called the lamp shading, and that's kind of what that was. It's don't ask questions. Just it's movie magic. Don't ask questions as to why the dress is the perfect length. It just is. Just don't ask questions. Let's move on.
Well, see,
that's kind of what that was.
My argument against the episode, before Matt gets into his point, my argument to kind of clarify, my argument in the episode wasn't the fact so much that it was like, oh, a pretty new dress. Can I get a spear with it and an accessory? It didn't feel true to Leia's character. Leia never cared about what she was wearing. Leia was a fighter. She would have been happy staying in the rebel jumpsuit. And even though she would have been gracious in accepting the gift, it's not like she would have put it on and modeled it like, oh, this is so pretty, can I get a spear to go with it? Leia would have just been like, thank you, put it aside, and stayed in her warrior garb because she was fighting a war.
Honestly, not, because she was wearing a dress in Return of the Jedi later on, so... Right there, she
showed something more happening to her uniform where she was forced to wear it.
Well, that's maybe not the case, but let's let Matt talk.
Yeah, sorry.
Actually, thank you. Actually, I had an interesting theory about the whole idea about the dress and everything. I mean, I know we all know the reaction they had with C-3PO. They thought he was like some sort of deity, a sun god of some sort. I mean, think about it. Like you said, the perfect dress, perfect length, and they gave her a spear. The dress wasn't like a pretty dress. It was a dress. But a dress nonetheless, like, it wasn't like complex or something. It looked more functional than formal, you know what I'm saying? And what if it ties into some sort of lore about a deity of some type? Because they did hand her a spear, and they gave her a garment that was befitting of a female huntress maybe or something. I mean, I know that sounds like really far-fetched, but I was like, wouldn't that just be an interesting theory if that was like for the next episode after that? You know what I'm saying?
I agree with you.
I mean, how it would tie into like her being of such an importance. Because remember when the guys finally showed up to the Ewok village, when they were finally carried in, when they saw Leia, the first thing they did was protect her. They didn't seem to be like, oh, these are your friends. They look just like you. They were like, no, get away from her. Get away from her. She's sacred. Don't touch her. So I'm starting to wonder if maybe they had something to do with that. And maybe they're going to play on that a little bit. So, that's why I wasn't upset too much about, a pretty dress. It was, maybe they're going to play something up with this, Because, why not? I mean, they played up with the Night Watcher. You know what I'm saying? And they threw that in, and they actually answered your question about that guy. So why not answer like they did with Rogue One, a very simple question, made it something much more bigger and epic. Do the same thing with a 2-minute cartoon, just a little blurb to throw in there. Hey, look, this is canon. Let this play with your head a little bit.
I'm open to see where it goes. I'm not saying I hate the series because I hate one or didn't like one episode as much as I like the other two. I'm just saying, to me, it felt like a little bit of a betrayal of the Princess Leia character. That's all I'm saying.
I'm just saying it's too early to make a judgment yet. Because it took 2 episodes for the Rey one to make more sense. So I just think it's going to be one of those deals that as the show develops, that first episode will make more sense.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Brian?
All right.
Yeah, Brian can talk about the first episode.
Yeah. Okay. Like I really liked the first one. As simple as it was, and I wondered if her feeding that Night Watcher was going to play in later, and apparently it does. But there were a couple of throwbacks to the original Star Wars in the first one, like with her using the staff to hold the thing's mouth open was a throwback to Luke with the bone in the Rancor holding its mouth open, and then BB-8 getting shot out of the mouth of the creature out of the sand was like R2 coming out of the Dagobah swamp, and I thought that was kind of cool, really, the little throwbacks like that, and was it geared towards children? Yes, it was. Here, take this instead, and tosses it a piece of metal. That's children stuff. But I mean, apparently it's going to play into the next one that I'm going to watch, so I'm willing to see where it goes. And so far I really like it. So,
I guess the question to John in this review is: does this make what you're hearing our reviews of? Does it make you more or less excited to sit down and watch the 3 episodes that have been released so far?
I'm actually very interested to see it now. I was planning on seeing it eventually, but because I didn't know how it was going to be formatted, what it was going to be on, anything like that. But now that I know it's going to, it's on YouTube and they're just these little short videos. I'm definitely very, very amped to see it. Very excited to check them out and to see what I think of them.
Only until July 9th. That's when it debuts on Disney Channel.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So these, I don't even know if these are teasers and there's going to be a longer show on Disney Channel, or if it's still going to be like 2.5 minute segments on Disney Channel too.
I have a feeling they're probably teasers, and what we're seeing is parts of the full episode of each character.
That'd be nice.
I don't know, because from what I'm hearing, from what you guys have said, the first 2 are pretty much one story.
But that could be what they're showing. It could go into a lot more, is what I'm saying. There's a lot more they can go with it. So.
Actually, you know what the art style reminds me of? The Clone Wars cartoon that Genndy Tartakovsky did. I swear it looks just like it.
Yeah, it does.
A little bit I've seen very similar.
I don't know.
I almost see this just based off the one I've seen. I almost see it just being something they play in between episodes of other shows, kind of like a little filler commercial thing in between.
Like between Rebels and shit and stuff.
Because that's what they did on Cartoon Network with the original Clone Wars series, that Samurai Jack style one. There were always little shorts that they put in between other shows.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm almost wondering if it's not the same kind of thing.
It's possible. I guess we'll have to find out.
Possible. Yeah.
But
all right. Well, on that note, we will start wrapping things up. As always, remember to like and subscribe, and to check out all the other shows here at Realm of the Mist. Right down there, you can see it right. Nope. Look to your left, right there. Just click that button, like and subscribe. And as always, may the Force be with you.
Force be with you always.
May the Force be with you always.
And also
Force be with you.
Bye.